Imagine this. The news breaks. A meteor, a real planet killer, is on a direct collision course with Earth. So what happens next? I'm not just talking about the physical impact, but the philosophical one. Let's really dive into this thought experiment and use it as a lens to look at some of the deepest questions about who we are.
You know, this line from the philosopher Blaise Pascal, it just perfectly captures that feeling that would probably grip every single one of us. It's that deep, unsettling dread when you realize just how small we are in the grand scheme of things. And that feeling of cosmic fright, well, that's our starting point.
So yeah, that feeling of dread, that's exactly what we're going to get into first. We're calling it the cosmic shock. Because this isn't just about a rock hitting the planet, it's about the shock to our whole way of thinking.
An impending meteor strike would be a true existential shock. It would force us to face a truth we try so hard to ignore. No matter how smart we get, how much tech we build, humanity is just this tiny, fragile speck floating in a ridiculously vast cosmic ocean.
And, that shock, it makes us grapple with this really uncomfortable idea that we live in a universe that, frankly, just doesn't care about us. Think about it. For centuries, we've kind of acted like we're the main characters, right? That nature and the cosmos are supposed to make sense to us, to bend to our will. But the powerful truth is, one single, random stone from deep space is all it would take to completely shatter that illusion.
And this is where we run smack into what the philosopher Albert Camus called the absurd. The absurd is this fundamental conflict. On one hand, you've got us, these creatures who are desperate for meaning and answers. And on the other, you've got a universe that offers nothing. It just stays silent, completely indifferent to our search.
So what does that leave us with? It's a huge question, one that a giant meteor hurtling toward us makes impossible to ignore. If the universe isn't handing out a purpose for us, well, where in the world do we find one?
Okay, so we've talked about the big cosmic picture, this indifferent universe. Now let's bring it way down to something much more personal and immediate, actually confronting the end.
There's this philosopher, Martin Heidegger, who had this idea he called being toward death. The gist is that our whole existence is shaped by the knowledge that it's going to end. For most of us, that's a distant thought, something we can push away. But a meteor? Whoa. Suddenly death isn't some far-off abstract concept. It's right here, right now, for everyone.
And you know what happens in that moment? Something kind of incredible, actually. All the little things, the trivial stuff that drives us crazy every day, the deadlines, the traffic, the petty arguments, poof, they just collapse. They lose all their meaning.
This slide just lays it out so perfectly. First, all those daily worries just fade into the background. They don't matter anymore. And that strips everything down, laying our real priorities bare. It shows us what really matters. And from that clarity, the most essential question of all just emerges. Okay, if this is it, how should we truly live the time we have left?
Now I know this all sounds super bleak, but here's where things take a really surprising turn. We can actually pull profound meaning out of our own mortality.
Friedrich Nietzsche absolutely nailed it with this one. The threat of everything ending doesn't have to lead to despair. Instead, it can be the ultimate motivation to figure out our why, our purpose. And if you have a strong enough why, you can endure almost any how, even the end of the world. So here's the crucial shift. Our entire relationship with life would just flip on its head. We'd go from seeing life as something we own, something permanent and stable, to seeing it for what it truly is, a temporary trust, a finite gift that deserves to be lived as deeply and fully as possible.
So, what does that transformed life actually look like? It's a life lived with depth, not just on the surface. It's one lived with sincerity, where we're true to ourselves and others. And finally, it's a life lived with responsibility for how we spend our precious final moments.
Okay, so that's how it changes us as individuals. But now let's zoom out, because this threat wouldn't just change us, it would change all of humanity. Just imagine it. All the things that divide us, borders, politics, cultures, they would suddenly seem so small, wouldn't they? Faced with a shared destiny, a common end, humanity might finally see itself as a single, unified entity, facing the great unknown together.
And this could lead to a huge shift in our collective purpose. Solidarity wouldn't just be a word anymore. It would take on real, urgent meaning. Science would stop being a tool for competition and become a tool for our collective survival. And we would finally start a shared global conversation about our place in the universe.
And this right here is the ultimate takeaway. The fall of a meteor wouldn't be the end of thought. Paradoxically, it would be the beginning. It would be this moment of total philosophical clarity, stripping away all our illusions and forcing us to confront the most basic truths.
So we've journeyed from that initial cosmic shock, through the absurdity of an indifferent universe, to finding personal meaning in mortality, and finally to a vision of collective purpose. This whole thought experiment leaves us right where all good philosophy does, with a powerful, open-ended question. What does it truly mean to be human in a universe that doesn't care about us?